Hello, we are Avicenna group number 14 from section 03 and we will be presenting inference statistical analysis to you. The content of the video would be firstly introduction, secondly hypothesis testing, thirdly correlation, fourthly regression, and fifthly goodness of fit test. Firstly introduction. To carry out this inference statistical analysis, secondary data is obtained from a website called KHalid. Around 156 countries from all over the world are chosen as population, and 9 Southeast Asian countries are chosen as sample. From this dataset, we will find about the mean of the social support factor and how it related to the happiness of a country. Firstly, we have conducted hypothesis testing, which is a one sample test. Hypothesis testing can be done in two ways, which is z-test or t-test. Here we have used t-test as our sample size is lesser than 30. The purpose of this testing is to determine whether the mean of the social support variable is different from the claimed value or not. For the null hypothesis, the mean is equal to 1.2132. For the alternative hypothesis, the mean is not equal to 1.2132. Throughout this testing, we have used a significance level of 0.05. By using the RStudio, we have obtained the value for degree of freedom, which is 8, t-value 0.91764, critical value 2.306, p-value 0.3856. From this graph, we can see that the t-value does not fall within the critical region. So, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Also, since the t-value is lesser than the critical value, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Another way to decide whether to reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis is using p-value method. Here we can see the p-value is greater than significance level, which means we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Hence, there is insufficient evidence to support the claim that the mean of the social support variable is different from the claimed value, which is 1.2132.
Now we're on to our second test, which is correlation, and the purpose of this test is to analyze the correlation coefficient between social support and happiness score among Southeast Asia countries. Our null hypothesis is true correlation is equal to 0, and our alternative hypothesis is true correlation is not equal to 0. As you can see from this slide, this is actually a screenshot of our R output. As you can see, we have sum of score squared, sum of score times support, which is xy, sum support and sum support squared. And these are all important to put into the Pearson formula, and the result of this test is R equals to 0.7740. Hence, our null hypothesis is rejected. In addition to that, you can see this scatter plot. You can see a linear trend here, because value of R is near to 1. This is to show that the relationship between social support and happiness score has positive correlation.
Hi there, my name is KHalid. So I'm here to talk about a bit about regression analysis. So our purpose in this regression test, we also analyze the variable between social support and happiness score among Southeast Asian countries. We have determined the null hypothesis will be the estimated regression is equal to 0. In other words, there's no relationship between social support and happiness score. So on the other hand, alternative hypothesis would be the true correlation is not equal to 0, since we use the same variables for regression and correlation. The values for the variables are the same, We are going to use regression formula as shown here. So we calculated the estimated values and find the regression line, and the results are over here. So this is the chart, and here's the social support, and the other side is the happiness score. So finally we tested the T alpha to see if we can accept or reject the null hypothesis. So okay, as you can see here, the null hypothesis is rejected. So we can see the value of T over here is more than T alpha. Hence, this test rejects the null hypothesis. So we can see from the chart here, it forms a positive line, which is kind of slope. So hence showing that social support has a positive relationship with score happiness. So this is the relationship between them. Thank you.
Fourthly, we have conducted goodness of fit test. The purpose of this test is to test if there is any difference in the proportions of social support variable among Southeast Asian countries. For the null hypothesis, proportions of the social support variable are the same for all the Southeast Asian countries. For the alternative hypothesis, at least one of the proportions for social support variable is different from others. Throughout this testing, we have used a significance level of 0.05, and by using the R Studio, we have obtained the values for degree of freedom, which is 8, test statistic value 0.131151, critical value 15.50731, which is greater than test statistic value, p value which is 0.993, which is greater than significance level. By referring to this graph, we can see that the test statistic value does not fall within the critical region. So, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Also, since the test statistic value is lesser than the critical value, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Also, by referring to the p-value, which is greater than significance level, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Thus, there is insufficient evidence to support the claim that the proportions of the social support variable for the Southeast Asian countries is different from each other.
And we have reached the end of our video. We are from Avicenna. Thank you very much for listening and hope you guys have a nice day ahead.